All right, so a little while back, my wife and I went on a bit of a date night out to Jordan Peterson show, actually. When we got to the show, I felt kind of a very interesting ambiance, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I kind of felt like everyone around me had a level of buy-in to a particular idea, right?
Yeah, there was a level of shared value to some degree.
Yeah. And what I thought was interesting, and we talked about this a little bit at the show, you felt almost a sense of camaraderie with a lot of the people there, even though you didn't know them. And what I thought was unique about it, unlike another show that we had gone to earlier that week that was more on the musical side, I felt like there was an underlying similarity between a bunch of people, but that there was not necessarily a group or hive mind mentality. People retained their level of individualism and were free to think on their own and come to their own conclusions, but that there was still something that brought everyone together and unified everyone, right? Like a shared underlying goal or narrative that everyone was kind of striving towards, right? Near the end of the talk, Peterson talked a little bit about how it was so heartwarming to see everybody there and that it was representative of everyone kind of aiming up, as he put it, right? Trying to better themselves, looking critically at oneself, looking to grow and to evolve, right?
Yeah, well, you're probably not listening to Jordan Peterson if that's not the type of person that you are. And furthermore, you're probably not the type of person to pay money and go to one of his lectures if you're not the type of person who's looking to better themselves in some way.
Yeah. So, I think that's some of the similarity among the people in the audience, right? There's this shared goal wanting to strive to better oneself. There's a shared goal of understanding of those around you, of trying to do better for not just yourself, but your community, your family, those around you to act and work and become a better person, right? That feeling was just kind of palpable in the air, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure.
And I've been in a few other instances where I think that's really been the case as well.
I think it's more than just being in an environment where you are sharing some kind of common experience with everyone around you, or that you have
Mm-hmm.
something in common with everyone around you. Because, like, the concert we went to earlier that week, okay, the thing we had something in common with everyone who was there,
Yeah.
and that was that we liked this music, this artist, and we
Mm-hmm.
wanted to hear them.
Yeah.
Right. If we go to Chipotle for dinner, we have something in common with everyone there, which is we're all hungry and we want
We want
Chipotle.
Chipotle, yeah.
But that doesn't elicit the same type of feeling of what you're talking about, because I think the difference is not as much of a maybe deep or fundamental type of experience that you're sharing or mindset that you're sharing.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between having like a shared hobby with someone and having a shared value or worldview, right? You can have certain friends where you both really like to do some sport, or you both like to paint, right? You both have dogs and you like to go on jogs with them. There's nothing wrong with that, but that level of relationship where if that's all that relationship has to propel it forward, that relationship is not going to be as strong as something where you have a shared set of values.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that you can feel that kind of in mass. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been in certain environments where like, you go into church,
Yeah.
right?
I was
And
thinking about church too.
and yeah, I'm sure I disagree with many people in church on a whole swath of things, right? Whether that be what movies are appropriate to watch or what music they like, what sports they prefer to play, right? And maybe some of those things are even theologically based, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, there's still a foundation that we all agree with and agree to. And from that, we can build a relationship, I think. It's like you've got a really well set foundation versus having a little bit of, some temporary structure built on ground that isn't particularly solid, right?
I mean, I think that's really the key to having a strong community or a place that you feel like you belong or a place that you want to be.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I'm not trying to denigrate going to a concert where your only shared thing with everybody else there is that you want to have a you want to have a good time and listen to this person's music and watch this person perform and you like the music, right? I'm not trying to denigrate that, just like I'm not trying to denigrate when somebody has a friend who they just play sports with or a friend who you just go on a jog with or have some shared interest or hobby. I'm not saying that any of that's wrong, but I do think that having some of these experiences that are based in values and things that are deeper, I think that those are likely more critical. And I think that having these experiences at a number of different levels in one's life, I think is really critical and something that is missing a lot from our society. And I think that we've seen it kind of crumbling and dying out at a number of different levels. I think you used to have a lot more tight-knit communities where not only did people have a level of similarity, but there was also some kind of underlying value. So I think to a degree, certain churches have lost this. And I think that communities, like where one is living physically, I think that this is severely lost on a lot of people.
I mean, could you say that some of that has moved maybe more online, like with Reddit forums or with Facebook groups?
Yeah, that's a great point. I do think that a lot of it has shifted online. And I think that being able to sympathize with people online and find communities for things that may have otherwise been very niche, where you couldn't find someone in real life, I think that that can be really beneficial.
It
But
can also be dangerous, right?
yeah, I mean, I think it can be dangerous too.
Isn't that how, like, the flat earth theory really made ground? Through these niche online communities?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'm not super well versed in the origins of the flat earth movement, of the modern flat earth movement, maybe we should say. I'm not terribly well versed in that, but yeah, there are obviously positives and negatives. But I don't think that having these online or internet communities can be a complete substitute for in-person communities and camaraderie. I think that there is a level of emotional and physical connection that is missing when you go to like solely online interactions with someone. There's a level of
Yeah, for sure.
there I mean we kind of talked about this earlier, but there's this tangible feeling in the air when you get together with like a large group of people like that, or even a small group in some instances, where you walk into the room and you just feel differently, right? And part of that's been discussed with, whether that be concerts or in church services, like some of these things, you can say that maybe to a degree they're emotionally manipulative. Just like you could probably say this about certain things on like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, where these people are being put into situations that are uncomfortable and elicit certain feelings, just like music elicits certain feelings. Just
Yeah.
like physical touch and being close to people changes how you interact. Like studies have been done where if you're facing someone face to face, like head on, versus if you're, like, say with your spouse, sitting in a car, right, where you're not facing each other, you're both facing forward, you can't respond to the facial tones and slight muscle variations, that the nature of the conversation changes drastically. And I think when you go from in-person things where you have shared experiences, whether that be with music or talking to people face to face, or just being in the same room with a large group of people, like, I think there's something unique and special with that is not the case to the same degree when you go to an online environment. And I think that we need to bring back more instances like that. And it doesn't always have to be on like a wildly fundamental level. Like, I think going to a concert is something that like really helps people bond and have a sense of community and maybe make friends. And that doesn't necessarily have a high level of value similarity between attendees, right? That's more of a hobby thing. And yet, even in those instances, I think that bringing people together physically, having a sense of camaraderie almost, is really critical. I mean, you also see that with like sports games, let's say.
Yeah, right. I'm not a huge sports person, but yeah, there's something in the air that
Yeah.
like everyone's plugged into the same power source.
Yeah. And obviously these things can be manipulated and made bad, right? Like I'm sure there are plenty of instances where sports fans get out of order and people get hurt or trampled or they're destroying things. Like, I'm not saying that bringing people together in a group is inherently positive. I think that gathering together in groups is something that's critical to the human experience, and we can debate to what level that's necessary for a given individual. But I do think that getting groups of people together for a society is helpful. And when we don't do that with a productive goal in mind, it's going to manifest itself anyway. And the likelihood when it manifests itself is going to be towards something negative, I think. Like, if you're not getting people together on a regular basis, if whether that means going to church or bringing a community together and talking about community issues, no matter what it is, I think that humans need to be getting together and having these shared experiences, because what this ultimately creates is a shared narrative.